Hey there, knitters. It's Leslie here with YYC Knits. Just continuing on with our stripes, the hat pattern. We have just completed the brioche band on the hat. So we are looking now at working the main color just halfway around, and while tacking the contrasting color in the back. So how we're going to do that is it says to work across 48 stitches for the size that I'm making. So I'm just going to hold the contrasting color in my left hand, and as I'm knitting across, I've just finished my purl row and my increases. So I've done increases after every 12 stitches, and how I did those increases was I did a backwards loop cast on. So I just took my yarn and just cast on like so. So you can look that up. That's a separate video. It's called a backward loop cast on. So I'll just show you one more time in case you're not familiar with that. So we're just kind of taking our yarn and turning the working yarn, with the ball in behind us. We're turning the yarn towards us and putting it on the needle like so and pulling it tight. So we've done those increases every 12 stitches for this particular size. And so when we come to those, in order not to leave a hole in our knitting, we have to knit that through the back loop. So we've got a few things to keep in mind. So we're gonna go ahead. We've tacked this stitch here, so we've got one, and we're gonna tack it every 4. So we've got 2. You can see here that this was our backward loop cast on because it just looks a little bit different than the rest. And so we're gonna knit this one through the back loop. This will be 3. And our 4th stitch, we're going to tack. So we're gonna pull this thread up, go behind it, knit around, over and through. Hopefully that's clear for you all. So we'll continue along, knitting another 4. So 1, 2, 3, and on the 4th one, we're gonna put this yarn up and over, go around that stitch, go back around and through. And so what it does is it just tacks it in behind so that we're carrying it along with us, and we're just tacking it every 4 stitches so that it's not gonna be caught. If we left a really long draw, it would get caught and stuff like that. So for lack of a better way to explain it, sorry about that, guys. So yeah, so we're just going to continue along, tacking it every 4, and you just want to remember that you're just going to knit to whatever the prescribed amount for your size is. So I have to knit 48. So rather than counting on camera, I'm just going to pause it and count those stitches and see how far we are to the halfway point. So we'll be back shortly. Okay, so I've just counted the stitches from my place marker here, and we've got 31. So we have a few more to go. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do this, and hopefully you'll get it more clearly if you haven't already. So. So that should be 48 stitches right to my halfway point. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to drop this yarn, just quit working with it, and I'm going to pick up this pink right where it lies. I'm not going to cross them in the back or do anything like I would normally in color work. So I'm just going to drop this one, pick up this one, and start knitting with it across. So all I'm going to do is leave that one right where it lays. And remembering while I knit around with the light pink to knit those cast on stitches through the back loop. So with this pattern, this is called knitting in a helix. So with two colors, I'm going to knit to the halfway point, and then I'm going to pick up my next color and start knitting with it all the way until I come to my next color, and then I'm going to drop that color and start knitting with the one color. So I'll just pause the camera and I'll knit around to my place marker and make sure I've got the amount of stitches that I need here, and then I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so I for sure from my marker, I've carried my light pink yarn in behind and just tacked it every 4 stitches, as well as knit those cast on stitches through the back loop as to not leave a hole. So we've got our yarn carried halfway, exactly halfway in my size. The pattern that I'm knitting is a 48 stitches, so I've counted off 48, and I'm just going to drop that yarn right where it's going to stay, and I'm going to leave that one, and I'm going to knit the other halfway around the hat, or the other 48 stitches, and here's one of those cast on stitches, so I'm going to knit that through the back loop so that we don't leave a hole. I did the backwards loop cast on because that increase round is a purl round, so you're gonna, the same thing here, you're purling around, then you're knitting one round, and then you're starting your brioche. So in order to keep it the same, we did a knit round, then we did a purl round, and now we're starting our pattern. So we've just dropped the dark pink and we're just going around now the light pink. I actually just love to see the colors that you pick come together and how cool they look when they're knit in a helix like this, in a 2-color helix. So so again, we've got our cast on stitch, our backwards loop cast on, so we're going to knit that through the back loop and make it look as normal as possible. There's a method to my madness. I did that for a reason, and I started explaining, but then I kind of got sidetracked. But I did the backwards loop cast on to look like the purl stitch on that purl increase row. So we're just continuing right around with the light pink. So how we're knitting in a helix is, it's really cool. We've got another cast on stitch here, so we're just going to knit that one into the back loop. So every 12 stitches was a knit through the back loop for that one. So I might just write that into the pattern. So I think that knit row and the purl row just kind of segregates the, and then again we've got another cast on, so we're going to knit through the back loop. Just kind of segregates the brioche ribbing and just kind of makes it stand out and makes it kind of all of its own. You can see here where where I didn't do I did the purl stitch on the bottom, or the purl round on the bottom, but I didn't do it up the top. And so we're just trying something new here, see how it looks. So continuing around. Okay, so because we're knitting in a spiral, we're knitting on a small circular hat needle, we're knitting in a spiral around. And so to make those stitches lay on top of one another and line up on top of one another instead of spiraling around, Very Pink Knits always says, I'm not sure how it works, but it works. So this is how you knit in a helix. So we've come to our beginning of round marker, but we are going to continue on. We're going to slip our marker and we're going to continue on with this light pink color until we come to our halfway point to our other color. And we're going to drop the light pink, pick up this dark pink, and knit with it until we come to the light pink, and so on and so forth. So that's how it works to knit in a helix. You can use 1, 2, 3, or 4 colors. So all you're going to do is you're going to knit, say you have 100 stitches and you're going to use 4 colors. So you're just going to knit 25 in one, 25 in the next color, 25 stitches in the following, and 25 in your 4th color. So you're going to split it into how many ever colors that you have, and that's how you knit in a helix. So it's actually really cool to see. In the completed hat, you can't see where we stopped knitting with one color and picked up the next. It's a complete it's absolutely amazing. I don't know how it works, but it works. And it just looks like it's completely, every line, every stripe lines up with each other. So it's really a cool technique, and it's helix knitting. You can see at the very beginning where you start it. So you do have one row that kind of doesn't line up, and that's where we start it. But the whole rest of the hat just totally each row lines up. So anyways, so we've reached our marker, so we're just going to continue on with this light pink, knitting with this light pink, and here's where the fun begins. You're going to see your stripes come to life, and you're just going to knit until you reach that next color. And like I said, you're going to drop the one you're working with, and without crossing them or doing anything crazy in behind, you're just going to drop the one where it lays, pick up the other where it lays, and start knitting with it. And you want to make sure that you're not pulling your yarn too tightly or leaving anything too loosey-goosey. So I'll just knit up to this section and show you what I mean by that, and then you should be good to go if you have any qualms. You will notice a bit of a line up your hat at first, but it completely blocked out when I blocked this alpaca hat. I don't know how it's going to block out when I put this one here in hot water and just leave it for a good soak overnight. But what I would do in blocking this hat is I would just drop it in a sink of as hot as your tap will go, put a drop of wool wash and a drop of your favorite essential oil, and just leave it soak overnight and lay it flat to dry. Roll it, squeeze out any excess water, roll it up in a towel, and then lay it flat to dry. And that should block it out nicely. So I've got my last stitch in that hot pink color, And so as you can see, this stitch really pulls big because it's not attached at the back. So what I would do is I would pull this stitch. I'm going to drop my light pink color, and from the back I'm just going to give this a little tug just so that it looks identical to all of these stitches. So a little tug, and it looks really good, and I'm just going to start knitting with that one now. So that's how that's done there when we come to our different color. So you can just go ahead and you're basically knitting half of the hat. Well, it's actually more than half, isn't it? It's weird how it turns out, but that's how it works. You're starting out by knitting half of the stitches around and then continuing around with the next color. So we've still got our provisional cast on, so I'll make a video on how to just put these live stitches from the provisional cast on back onto our circular needles, and I will make a quick video on just how to do an extra stretchy cast off, and then we'll have a nice stretchy cast off or cast on, and it'll match the rest of our hat. So happy knitting, everyone, and hope you enjoyed the tutorials and found them handy, and don't forget to subscribe so that when new technique videos come up, you'll have them handy and ready to watch. Happy knitting!